Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacy Stanislaw, and I'm the Communications Manager for the Drexel Libraries. I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon for our webinar, How to Make Drexel Yearbooks Work for You, with Sarah Newhouse, our Digital Archivist. This session is part of the library's fall webinar series called Building Connections to Scholarship. The event series includes over 15 different sessions that focus on tools and systems the libraries provides to help our Drexel Dragons with their research. You'll find all the details about this series on our website, and I'll add the link to the chat box in a second. We hope you'll consider attending some of our upcoming events. Now, before I turn it over to Sarah, I just want to run through a few logistics. First, if you could just keep yourselves muted during the presentation, we'd appreciate it. And then we'll take all of your questions at the end. Next, I just want to note that we are recording this session, and I will post the recording on our YouTube channel later today. I will also send all of our attendees an email with a link to the recording and then a link to the short survey. We'd love to hear your feedback about this session. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, great. Hi, thanks for your interest in using Drexel Yearbooks in your classroom or research. My name's Sarah Newhouse. I'm the Digital Archivist in the Drexel University Archives. And I am saving plenty of time for questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have a question, please type it into the chat and we'll get to it in about 15 minutes. Or if you have something that you don't want to ask now for whatever reason, or you think of something later, you can reach me at the email address on the screen. So before we dive into the yearbooks, I want to orient everyone with a very brief overview of what the Drexel Archives is and does. We collect, preserve, and provide access to records documenting the history of Drexel University. This includes all the stuff listed on the slide, administrative records, university publications, and the personal papers of students and faculty. And as the digital archivist, I encourage you to think of these not just as old papers, but also as digital files, and things like PDFs, websites, emails, podcasts, cell phone photos, all of that stuff. The Archives Reading Room is located in the lower level of Haggerty Library at 33rd and Market, which is where you will go if you want to see a yearbook or other archival materials in person. Our materials do not circulate like a library collection, which means you can't take our 15th century rare books or A.J. Drexel's family photographs home with you, but you can make an appointment to come see them. We require appointments to see archival materials, mostly because we need to be sure that an archivist is available to work with you. So we need to know when you're coming. We are currently offering limited appointments to come use materials in our reading room due to university-wide pandemic protocols and our desire to protect our researchers and our staff. Our reading room is very small, so maintaining 6 feet of distance between people means that we're not operating at our full researcher capacity, and we really encourage everyone to use online or digitized resources whenever possible. Our hours of operation are during the regular workday, and that's still true now when we're mostly working from home. So a research inquiry sent in at 6 p.m. may not be seen until the following morning. We also offer digitization and research services. If you have a question, we're happy to dig into the collections in search of an answer for you. And if we find that answer, we're happy to digitize those materials for you. There's some fine print that should go here about usage agreements and copyright that I won't really get into now, but know that there may be some limited ways that you can use some items due to federal copyright law, and that those limitations will depend entirely on the specific item. So, not going to get into the copyright rules because at this point, anything I could say would be so broad as to be useless. If you are interested in or have questions about our collections or what we do, I encourage you to ask questions after the presentation. Email us at archives@drexel.edu, or you can attend one of our other webinars. So, on to the yearbooks. Drexel has actually produced several different yearbooks throughout its history. The Lexard and the Spartan are the 2 main yearbooks, but I'll cover some of the more rare ones too. The Lexard, and that's Drexel backwards, is the main yearbook that documents undergraduate life at the university. We have issues from 1913 through 2018. This is the yearbook most of you will probably be interested in using as it provides the widest lens onto student life. The Spartan was the yearbook of the evening college, which used to be the way that Drexel offered classes to working adults. The Evening College still exists as Goodwin College of Professional Studies. And our issues of the Spartan cover 1935 through 1956. The Eccentric, which has a great title, was a very early yearbook of the Drexel Institute, which was the university's name when it was founded in 1891. And we just have a few issues of the Eccentric from 1895 to 97. The Hanseatic, we only have one issue of from 1896, and oddly enough, it just covers the Department of Commerce and Finance. We also have a single issue of the Record from 1912, which covers only the engineering department, and a couple issues of the Philanthropist, which is the successor to the Spartan. The Philanthropist documents the activities, students, faculty, and staff of Goodwin College. And those issues are later. They're all from 2004 through 2006. Many issues of our yearbooks are available online as PDF files in our online repository, which we call IDEA, which you can find at idea.library.drexel.edu. In this screenshot of the IDEA homepage, you can see that we have a few different collections in our online repository, and not all of them are Drexel University Archives historical materials. IDEA also contains all of the electronic theses and dissertations produced by Drexel graduate students, and materials from the archives at the College of Medicine, among other things. All of the materials from the Drexel University Archives, including the yearbooks, are, predictably, in the Drexel History Collection. And once you're inside the Drexel History Collection, the yearbooks are, of course, inside the Yearbooks collection. As you can see in this screenshot, we do not have all of the yearbooks that I listed earlier currently digitized and uploaded into IDEA. Progress on this has stalled due to the fact that it's been awfully hard to digitize something if you can't physically get to it. And we have had no access to our collections this summer due to the pandemic. However, just before campus shut down, we were able to get nearly a full run of the Lexards online and all of the copies of the Spartan and the Record that we own. The next step, now that we're returning to the library, is to fill in the gaps and begin digitizing the issues that aren't yet online. And you can actually help us with this. If you need or want to use an issue of a yearbook that we don't yet have online, let us know and we will bump it to the front of the queue. When you're actually looking at an online version of a yearbook in IDEA, you will see some metadata and some descriptive information at the top of the page, and a PDF of the yearbook will be visible below that metadata, and you can read through it in your browser. Or if you're looking for something specific in a yearbook, all of our yearbooks are full text searchable. You can click on the magnifying glass in the upper left to get to the search box, which will show you every instance of a term inside a specific issue. It will also helpfully highlight the term on the page, which is great when the pages have a lot more text than this one does. And if you'd like to take the PDF home with you, there is a download button built into the PDF viewer in the upper right. Before we get into looking at more content from the yearbooks, please note that none of our yearbooks have been abridged or edited in any way. This means that some issues will likely contain words or images that will be harmful to some students and researchers. We provide these yearbooks unabridged in the interests of historical accuracy, transparency, and trust between researchers and the archives. And we also believe it's important to document the issues and social context of a specific time and the attitudes and opinions of the people who created these yearbooks. If you are interested in our approaches to harmful content in our collections, please see our full statement about this on our website, which is library.drexel.edu/archives. And I know the screenshot is small and hard to read, but like it says at the top, we do welcome feedback about this, so please do reach out if you have any concerns. So, what can you find in the yearbooks? Yearbooks are first and foremost great for historical research. You can use these to understand how the Drexel community, excuse me, or the Drexel community as a representative group of mostly American college-age adults, reacted to world and national events like World War I and the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, both of which are mentioned in the domestic arts section of the 1919 Lexard. And I won't read the whole thing, but the first paragraph begins, On account of war conditions, there were many changes, and then describes the changes. And the second paragraph notes that, quote, "We were ready for school, but owing to the influenza epidemic, school was not ready for us." And so the beginning of classes was delayed that year in the fall of 1918. As another example of world events, I think it's interesting that the moon landing in July 1969 was important enough to get a full-page spread at the beginning of the 1970 yearbook, which came out almost a full year later. But seeing the ripples of world events doesn't always mean a full-page spread about something, or even a photograph or a keyword that you can easily search for. Sometimes it shows up in quieter ways, like this evening college student with a German name who came from, quote, the old world, sometime before 1946, the year of the yearbook, and who loves taking photographs of his, she's described as his cute little daughter. Or this student, who's again from the 1919 Lexard, which we've already seen an image from, who is a, quote, quiet soul who, during the Spanish flu outbreak, quote, went into one of the emergency hospitals and took charge of the kitchen. And honestly, the biographies in the older Lexards are some of my favorite things to read because you get such a strong sense of who these people were and why their education mattered to them. And sadly, we stopped seeing these in yearbooks in the 1940s. You can also get a window onto local events, in this case specific to the Drexel community and Powelton Village. This is a photograph of Powelton Village residents sitting in a bulldozer to protest and ideally halt the expansion of Drexel into their community. This image is presented without a caption in the 1970 Lexard, and it's also the third full-page image you encounter in the book, so I think the location's important here. The first two images are just pictures of things you'd expect. They're statues on campus, and then the third thing you see is this. Most of the researchers who use our yearbooks are doing genealogical research or looking into the history of specific people or colleges. This is something that could be incorporated into a variety of lessons to illustrate different points or practice different skills, like demonstrating how women students are described differently in their biographies than men, drawing conclusions about a discipline by learning how the college's name has changed over time, or practicing how a yearbook name can lead you to other archival resources and other archives in pursuit of someone's narrative. To do this, however, you must have a name first, and then you can search within our yearbooks for that name. For example, if your grandmother's name is Nancy Overholzer, and you know she attended Drexel in 1957, and you're looking for photographs of her, you can go to the 1957 yearbook and search for her name. And I cannot imagine being disappointed with this incredibly charming photograph. They're also great for studying cultural trends and fashion and hairstyles. And the next few slides are a selection of fashion and hairstyles that I had a really hard time narrowing down. Some great 70s hair here, and some really great early 2000s looks. And you can use them to to chart the progress of technology, which you can do by watching computers get smaller and smaller. This is 1956. This one's from 1984, which is the year that Drexel became one of the first universities in the country, possibly the world, to require its students to purchase a computer. These were sold at a deeply discounted rate through a special program with Apple. And it's a very important moment in Drexel's growth and self-identification as a tech powerhouse. And here's the conclusion of the amazing shrinking computer. You don't just have to use yearbooks for research, though. Many are in the public domain due to being published before 1977 and without a copyright notice. So this means they're a great resource for any kind of art or creative project, even just PowerPoints or report illustrations. Think of them as a hyper-local stock image resource. I could definitely see these graphics from 1923 being really reused in a really fun way. Or if you are interested in or teaching the history of graphic design, yearbooks are great snapshots of the dominant trends at a specific moment, like these beautiful mid-century illustrations from the 1953 Spartan. And here's some end paper from that issue. Or this less beautiful, to me anyway, vibrant page from 2007. And lastly, there's absolutely some data crunching to be done with these yearbooks. Demographics have shifted over the years, and the yearbooks are a goldmine of untapped data. I could see projects that analyze how many students mention spouses or children in their biographies, or how the programs break down by student or faculty gender, or how many pages are devoted to various topics, or at what point different clubs and organizations waxed and waned, demonstrating what people were interested in, like we see here with the American Society of Civil Engineers in 1956, numbers shrinking in 1984, and starting to bounce back again in 1996. Another potential project, you could also analyze which businesses choose to advertise in the yearbooks, which presumably meant that they were interested in reaching an 18 to 25-year-old audience, or that these are products people were interested in buying as they started their adult lives. So here we have an ad for athletic equipment, forever popular with young people. Here's an ad for coal, something you need if you're going to start your own household in 1929. And ads for office space and ice cream, both things that newly minted contributors to society needed in 1947. So to wrap up here, please remember 3 things. 1, that most of our yearbooks are online and full text searchable within each issue, and you can download them. 2, that they're mostly, but not only, for humanities research. You can study all kinds of topics related to the university through these annual publications, and I really encourage you to be creative in how you or your students approach them. There are absolutely ways to analyze the data that yearbooks present that I didn't get into here, and we in the archives would love to hear how you and your students, if you're teaching faculty, use them. And the third thing is just, if you're unsure about something, about anything, copyright, can we digitize a missing issue? Can we check for related materials? Whatever. Please ask an archivist. Helping you connect with historical materials is quite literally why we're here, and we love to do it. So thank you for your time. Please contact us with any questions. You can also contact me directly at the email address on the screen. And also, please enjoy my favorite Lexard cover from 1986. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. That was great. There aren't any questions.
Okay.
Unless Rachel has a question.
Oh, I accidentally stopped the screen share too.
That's okay. I'll stop the